Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and I have a very special guest tonight. Apparently been friends on Facebook for a really long time. I don't really reach out to people very much. I can do something for them or they can do something for me. And you guys all already know that. But Shane is currently on the Holzer Files with Dave Schrader and Cindy Kaza and a few other people that you may have heard of, Alexandra Holzer, things like that. So the reason that I asked Shane to be on my show is because on one of the Holzer Files, they were in Baltimore, and they were at the USS Constellation. And it's a place I used to go on school field trips all the time growing up in Baltimore. That's one of the things that you get to do, that in Washington, D.C. And I had had a paranormal experience in that location way back when in 1976, 77 time frame. And when you guys had the show, I had an experience there. So that's the reason why I asked him. So hopefully this will be fun for welcome, Shane, to the Paranormal Pride.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I will say that I have really enjoyed you on the Holzer Files. You are actually my favorite person on there because
thank you so much.
I'm not blowing stuff up your skirt. Not that you wear a skirt, but it's just that the way that you react is so real. You're looking for stuff that might cause the problem. It's like you're not expecting a paranormal experience to occur. So,
Right.
But okay. Somehow I'm cutting out a little bit. Hopefully we pick that up. And so how did you get involved with the Holzer Files?
Well, what a lot of people don't know is I've known Alexandra Holzer for many years now. So even before the show concept even came into being, I worked with her and actually got familiar with her father's work and what he called the Holzer method, which was an investigator going into a location and taking a trusted trans medium into that location. And that's pretty much it. It was bare bones investigating, taking somebody in that he trusted and communicated with spirit that way. So I've known Alexandra for a long time, and, life happened and, work and all of this stuff. And I get a call from the production company saying, hey, do you want to be a part of this? And they kind of did a rundown, but they didn't say what the show was. They just said it's a famous parapsychologist. His past work, were reopening his case files. And I said, okay, I know you guys can't tell me who it is, but can I take a guess? And they're like, sure, go ahead. And I said, it's Hans Holzer, isn't it? And they were floored that I even knew that, just because of my connection with Alexandra and all of that. They were just floored that I guessed it without them really saying much. And basically, so we got in contact. I talked to Dave a little bit and to Cindy, and we talked back and forth to see how the show was going to work and how we were going to work together as a team. And that was all she wrote after that. And here we are now.
Well, I'm so glad it worked out that way, because,
Me too.
I've really enjoyed the show. We did not know that we didn't have it set to tape so far this season. So I guess we're going to be watching the whole ton of them that are going to be on. I think, what is it, next week? I think you guys have it looks like kind of like a marathon.
A mini marathon. That's going to be this Thursday, and that's going to be leading up to a brand new episode at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, that we're really excited about. So, yeah, we're just trucking along. People can catch up if they want to, and they can watch. I believe it's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of season 1, and I believe there may be a couple from this season. I'm not sure what the lineup is. But yeah,
it is, because like I said, we were looking for it because we're going. My husband says, are there new ones? Are they on now? And I go, I don't know. I said, I thought I saw something where it was. And so when I looked it up, I said, yep. I said, I either said this week or next week. I'm bad on Saturday nights when I'm working on stuff, because it's like when I say next week, it's actually next week at that time. But when we talk about it, nope, it's this week now. So we have it all scheduled to tape so that we can catch up. I don't know. I didn't know if it might have changed channels or whatever, but it wasn't taping. So,
well, that's crazy. Shame on the DVR system, I guess.
Well, maybe we had something that was scheduled to tape before, and it was the same time. And since the show came in so late, maybe it popped yours off for something that I had scheduled earlier. But we only have about 70 things set to tape because we don't watch anything live.
And that's crazy that you say that, because there's a lot of people that I've been talking to lately that say, I just record it so I can fast forward through commercials, which is really cool. But I tell everybody, especially for like the live shows, if you do record it and watch later, a really important piece to this is, if you could, watch it within 48 hours, because if you're wanting that show to remain on the air, that's what helps count towards the ratings. After the 48 hours, it doesn't count. So it's like you never watched. So as far as the ratings go, if you do record it, that's perfectly fine. But if you don't mind watching it within 48 hours, that just helps keep our show on the air for more seasons.
Well, that's good to know, because we usually watch everything pretty close. It just depends on if we're on trips. So, but yeah, it depends. Well, I'll tell you, my favorite show is Supernatural, and I haven't seen the finale yet.
Oh, well, I won't say anything.
Well, I'm pretty sure it ends.
Yeah.
We haven't.
You're right about that. It ends.
And I haven't even seen the preview of Walker, Texas Ranger, the new one with Jared. So I don't know if I'm going to watch it or not. Just because I like their characters in the show doesn't mean I'm going to watch the next show that they're in. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. But at least not for me. Us old school people, just if we like it, we like it. If we don't, we don't. This now, I'm going to have to find something to replace the sarcasm in my life. I'm probably going to have to go to Netflix.
Yep. There you go. Man, I love a good old sarcasm. That's for sure. My friends hate it because I'm so sarcastic sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's my first language, and And the only reason I found Supernatural was because House went off the air.
Oh man, another great show.
Yep. And then, I was also watching, what other show was that? It was on TNT. It was a cop show. And I really liked it. The Closer. Really liked The Closer.
Oh yeah.
And Sarcasm, she had that down. And when it became Major Crimes, I watched all that too. So like I said, I like comedy, but I like the sarcasm that's there. But that's, you don't hear a lot of that in your show. There's none.
No, it's cut and dry. We're real serious about it. Yeah.
Maybe you should throw in a little here or there.
Well, and even if we do, sometimes it may not make it to the episode. It's one of those things, like the show is meant to be serious because we're trying to get to the truth of these cases, and we're reopening some really sensitive case material. So we don't, we don't have a lot of wiggle room with that. But I mean, off camera, I mean, me and Dave, we cut up all the time. I wish you guys that could be another show right there. How we cut up with each other, and it's pretty funny. We have some pretty good laughs.
Well, I'll tell you, some of the episodes that I haven't seen yet, Death to Tyrants, where you go, the infamous first stop of John Wilkes Booth.
Oh, yes, Surratt Tavern. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too far from where I grew up. And people are going, she grew up everywhere. I lived in Paterson, New Jersey. I lived in Baltimore, Maryland. I lived in Gretna, Virginia. Those are the places that I called home. And but that one looks like it's going to be really good. So that's season 2, episode 5. If you're out there listening, this one at the Franklin Castle, I can't wait to see that because I interviewed the guy who's the caretaker there.
Oh, okay.
After he was on Ghost Adventures, and he was so interesting. I don't know if you guys talked to him or not, but I really enjoyed him, and he talked to him. He is so knowledgeable, historically speaking, about the location. And I don't really care for going to big cities, but that one I might go to.
Franklin Castle was just an amazing location. It's almost like the castle was time locked there. Like everything else was modernized, but it's almost like that was just that stuck in its time and nothing really changed much. And actually on that case, something happened to me that never happened before, ever in my whole career.
Did you get scratched?
No, I did not get scratched, but I was pushed while I was setting up equipment. So it was before investigating even started, and it was.
That's always when it happens.
Yeah, it was before Dave and Cindy even got there. So I mean, I didn't have any unusual or weird feelings when I was setting everything up and running the cable and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But in the basement portion, I was setting up a static camera, and before I knew it, it felt like somebody physically just like blunt force to the chest pushed me back, almost like, no, stop what you're doing. And terrified me. It terrified me because, it caught me completely off guard. I had no clue what was going on. And that just further made me nervous about the rest of the night, the rest of the investigation, because it was a pretty crazy experience.
Well, like I said, I can't wait to see him. And Rosalie in one of the chat rooms, she said that she's seen them all and they're great.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And just real quick, like to everybody that's been watching and supporting, you guys have been amazing. I mean, the support that I've been hearing from everybody has just been phenomenal, and we really love you guys and appreciate it. And this is why the Holzer Files is continuing on a second season, is because of all of you. So really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here to talk about it some more, because I think it helps people if they know that you're a real person with
Right.
real feelings, and that you may be an A-type personality, but you're not a Zach.
Oh no, no. Anybody can reach out to me, and as long as I'm able, I'm available, and I'm available to reach on social media or wherever else, and I don't mind talking to all of you, because, like I said, it's the fans, it's everybody out there that makes the show even possible. So that's the least I can do.
Oh yeah. And when we got a commercial coming up, so I don't want to get started on the USS Constellation yet, but
Okay.
but I know that, how many episodes have you guys already done for season
So
2?
season 2, as far as airing, or how many
No,
did we do
no,
this
how many
season?
did you do, or are you still filming?
Okay, so no, we've finished filming, but we did 13 this season.
Oh, lucky
So
number 13. Perfect
right,
in paranormal.
right. So it was 10 last season and 13 this season, and hopefully more after that.
Well, with coronavirus, it's, everything's a little bit off.
Yeah, it's been a rough year. It's been a rough year for everybody, for sure.
How has coronavirus impacted your show?
We had to stop for a while. I believe it was in March sometime, and we were out filming, and that's when it first started, really, where places were shutting down. Our production crew they were wondering how they were going to get certain supplies, and it was just a scary time. We didn't know what was going on. So we got to one location, I remember, and got to our hotel, didn't even get started for the week. And they called us that night and they said, "Hey guys, we're going to have to send y'all home because of how things are going right now. So we're going to have to pack it up and go." And so we arrived at a hotel that evening, and the next morning flew out to come home. And we didn't start back up again, I believe, until 3 months later, but it was with strict protocols. Like, we had really strict protocols from the network and from the production company. We're tested all the time. And luckily, the whole crew and everybody, we made it out safely and healthy. So I'm really thankful about that. I got to give a quick kudos to Travel Channel and Painless Productions, Painless Television, because without their leadership and their guidance and their safety protocols in place, it would have been a bad situation, and I don't even think we would have been able to finish the season. So the fact that we were able to do it, it was a smooth running machine. Everybody was safe and healthy. I think it's a true testament to them.
Oh, it truly is. I know I've been tested twice already, and the brain scraping was more than enough for me.
Especially when you don't have much of one like me. So they had to reach way back there.
It's a whole different thing when you're saying, "Hey, I lost some brain cells today." Well, how'd you do that?
Right.
Oh, I had a COVID test, and
Right.
nothing fun.
Yeah.
And so we had. I know they've got multiple tests out there, but I don't know if they all scrape your brain.
No, there was some. I had some of those. I had some where it was a blood test, and then I had some where it was just the front of the nose. So I had a mixture of everything. I mean, like I said, we were tested all the time just to ensure that everybody was safe, and also tested before we came home in time for that way we knew what the results were. So that way we didn't jeopardize our family or anything like that. So they were really, really thorough, and I can't speak highly enough about them. That's why I know if we do get a third season and things are a little rocky like they are now, if we were to go out there, I know that they would have the protocols in place to where they're not going to jeopardize and not going to be careless about it. It's going to be of course, getting a job done, but doing it in a safe and responsible way.
Yep. And at that, we're at our first break. You're listening to WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with Shane Pittman in just a few minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Shane Pittman from the Holzer Files on the Travel Channel. So hopefully you guys will hear something you haven't heard or seen before on the show, or maybe get some insights on the stuff that happens that we don't see. But if you have any questions, please put them in the chat room because I will badger Shane with them until he answers them. But I'm pretty sure he'll answer them anyway, if he can. So just keep that in mind. There's sometimes that they can't answer the questions. So, but like I said, the reason that I wanted to talk to you was you had been to a couple places that I'd been as a child. And one of those was the USS Constellation that's in the Inner Harbor area of downtown Baltimore. And I went there when I went there a lot, but I actually had an experience in the same area that you did when I was about 12 years old. I mean, the whole area down there is unusual. It's changed a lot. In fact, when I was born, that lovely mall was not there. The McCormick's was across the way, and you could see the harbor from the little apartment that we paid $25 a month for. Yeah. Back then, which now is probably now back to $25 a month. But at one point in time in the 80s, they sold all those buildings down there, all the row homes, sold them all for $10. Okay. With
Wow.
the agreement that they would put $10,000. Okay. Think about it. $10,000 was all you had to put into them to refurb them. So a lot of those buildings were going to be torn down, if they didn't get bought. So we went back to the apartment that I was brought home to, and it was renting in the 90s for $2,500 a month, and we were only paying $25.
Wow.
So we have pictures of me on the roof of this place in my little homemade bikini that my mom made me in my pool. So like I said, I grew up, I was actually born in that same area, and I didn't live there long, to be honest. It wasn't long before we were into Paterson, New Jersey, which is the other place we're going to talk about. And so we moved back to Baltimore at some point, and we went on a field trip there. And they're taking us through the boat, and we're down in the area where they said that some of the people would sleep. There were hammocks and other things in there. And they've changed the boat around quite a few times with different renovations that they've done because of the freezing and, thawing of the river, of the bay and stuff, from what I'm told. And, but as I was walking through, there was this boy that I saw that grabbed my arm. And by this time, I knew I saw spirits from when I was younger, and I was already accustomed to not reacting to when a spirit touched me or talked to me when I was in public. But I remember him touching my arm and trying to pull me towards this other area. And it was really dark. There's no lights back there at the time, at least not that I knew of. Like I said, I was 12 years old. What did I care about lighting? But he tried to pull me back to this area. And at the time, they started telling us about this cabin boy that they had down there. And like I said, I don't remember all of it. I just remember being touched and being pulled to another area in the boat. And you seem to have had an experience in that same area.
Yeah, the almost identical experience, which is fascinating to me. So I was in that area. I forgot what they called that portion of the ship. I let me see. I can't remember. But what a lot of people don't know that watched this particular episode is I was in complete and utter darkness. Okay. That whenever we decided to do the solo experiments, Dave made sure that it was completely isolated and completely solo. So there was no light coming in there at all. I had these devices called shadow trackers that were lined up in front of me or beside me. No, it was in front of me. And what those are, they're basically motion detectors. So if anything passes over them, they have LED lights that'll light up, and they'll light up in the direction that motion is coming from. So I was sitting there and I was saying, look, if there's anybody here, talk to me, walk towards me, anything like that, just anything to try to trigger the activity to start happening and to be able to capture it with the equipment that I had down there. And before I knew it, something grabbed my right arm and pulled, like it tried to pull towards them, like trying to pull me out of that area. And I jumped up so quick, and what you guys don't see because of our fantastic production crew and the editing that they do, I was walking around with my hands in front of my face, and I was trying to see if I could touch anything, feel anything to try to guide me to where I was. I had no clue where I was, but I ended up on the other side of that area, and I ended up yelling for Dave and Cindy because I didn't know where my flashlight was, and I legitimately could not see at all. So I was just grabbed, and I felt defenseless because I didn't know which part of that area I was at, and I didn't know if whatever grabbed me was still around me, and I just felt completely defenseless. Really, really terrifying experience.
What did Cindy have any idea what it might be? Did she, medium wise?
Well, what she was telling me is she felt like it could have been some prisoners that they had there, like prisoners that they kept. And that was what her impressions were. It could have been a prisoner that was trying to grab me. But I'm not sure. Like I said, I mean, I go off of what she says because I trust her. But I mean, I'm not sure what it was, and I didn't see anything other than, whenever my eyes adjusted in front of me before that happened, I was seeing shadow movement. But that could be your eyes playing tricks on you and stuff too. So I wasn't sure what was going on. And then even after I was grabbed, I didn't see what grabbed me. So I can only speculate and, like I said, listen to what Cindy says. But other than that, I don't know. It was bizarre and really crazy.
Did you have any other experiences on the ship?
Yeah, I actually saw an apparition. It looked like a child. Okay. And this was at the top of the ship.
On the deck?
Yeah, on the deck with, I guess, the gun deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw like an apparition, like it looked like a child or something that peeked around one of the guns and looked at me and then crouched back down and sat down. It freaked me out because sometimes when you're out there and you're doing things, you don't know where your cameramen are positioned at times. Mm-hmm. So at first, whenever I looked and saw it, I thought it was maybe the cameraman trying to get an angle. But then I turned around and said, "Oh my God, both of our cameramen over here are accounted for." The person back I was trying to formulate some sort of idea in my head of what it could have been. But yeah, our cameramen were accounted for. Everybody was accounted for. And I saw that figure. It was like a black masked figure, like a shadow figure. Looked like a child that was crouching right behind the gun, which was weird, really weird.
I do recall a story from not my childhood, but my teenage years, that a child had fell and hit their head on something on the deck, and about 2 days later succumbed to died in the hospital.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I said,
wow.
I read about it in the new. Well, back then it was on the newspaper. It was in the news, and it was on the newspaper. So it was just one of those things that, because I lived in the area, I paid attention. And so it is always kind of weird. It's kind of weird what you remember from growing up. But I remember that because there was something, I think it was on TV in school, when they did local news type stuff, and they'd make you watch the news in the morning.
Right.
Trying to get you, I guess, politicalized. I don't know.
Well, they were telling us later too, which was kind of odd, that what they would used to do back in those times is sometimes they would have boys 9-10 years old that would help out. That they would help out on the ship as early as 9 and 10. Right, as early as 9 and 10 years old. So that was really interesting for me to hear whenever they were saying all of that after what I experienced and what I saw. Could it have been one of the cabin boys? I mean, we
And
don't
did
know
they
who
tell
it
you
was.
that they were most likely, if they were working on there, they were orphans?
Yes.
And the reason that they did that was because these kids could climb the masts and not weigh as much, so they could do stuff up there that needed to be done.
Right. Yep. That and they also said that they helped out with that, but that weren't treated the best either at times in these situations, because it's a sad time, but it was timed where they, really stressful environments and people were cooped up, and they said they weren't treated the best at times too. So
No, I knew that from that history from when we went there, but there was also a lot of these kids worked in the kitchen, so not always the best place. When you were there, did you guys happen to go down the road a little ways to where the submarine is, the USS Torque?
No, we did not.
It looks like a big shark. Also haunted. And not far from where you were at was the Edgar Allan Poe house. Did you guys happen to do any sightseeing while you were there during the day?
No. Well, see, we were so busy trying to gather the evidence and do some research and stuff. So we didn't have a lot of free time. Like, we did have some, but it wasn't very much. And I believe me and Dave were wanting to get to the Edgar Allan Poe house, but didn't make it.
Well, you got another chance if you end up going to Richmond for any reason. There's an Edgar Allan Poe house there as well.
Okay.
Because he lived in multiple. He moved around a lot.
Right.
But yeah, that was, being from out there, being a teenager. There are stories about the Edgar Allan Poe house that I can't share on. Well, I have shared on the radio before, but it's illegal. But I did. But I was a kid. Wow. I didn't know there weren't any cameras.
Right.
To catch everything back then. But that's a whole different story. But we do have a question in the chat room for you. And does Shane have a favorite location he's been to? And is there any location that you've never been to that you'd like to go?
Yeah, that's a very good question. My favorite location, I would have to say you guys are going to see this season, and it's the Queen Mary. We were able to investigate for the first time ever. We had unprecedented access because of our current situation with the pandemic and everything. The Queen Mary had nobody staying in there, so it operates as like a hotel and stuff too.
Right.
There was nobody there, so we had full run of the entire ship, and we were able to investigate there. So I'm really, really excited for you guys to see that episode. It's going to be a really good one. Great location, full of history, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful ship. 3 times the size of the Titanic. For people who don't know, it's 3 times the size. I mean, it's huge. So I didn't have a lot of fun running cable and doing all that, because that was a feat in itself. Hours and hours trying to make sure we had camera access. That was probably the most challenging part of my job this season was that particular location. A place that I would love to investigate if I had the opportunity, and I'll probably never have the opportunity, but the White House.
Oh, well, no, you won't. And I will tell you, again, growing up in Baltimore had its privileges. Washington, D.C. is only 36 miles away.
Right.
And every year, twice a year, we got to go to different places in Washington, D.C. So I knew pretty much by the back of my hand where everything was in the Smithsonian, unless they changed something. In which building?
Wow.
I knew where the staircases were to go up in the Washington Monument and all this stuff. But we went to the White House, and there were a couple different spirits I saw there. And no, I did not see Abraham Lincoln, but I did see some spirits there. And then there's an octagon house in Washington, D.C. That's the Dolly Madison house. We went there too, because she's the one, she saved a whole bunch of stuff from the first White House when it caught on fire.
Right.
And so there's a bunch of stuff there. It's amazing. You know,
you just got to imagine. I mean, the history that the men that walked those halls, and I mean, it's just fascinating to me. And I know, you know, it's a pipe dream. I won't be able to investigate it, but that's one place that I would love to. Another place would be really cool that is challenging to get to right now is the Amityville house, because Hans Holzer, he investigated, did some research and wrote about the Amityville house.
Is his interpretation any different than the Warrens?
Yes.
Okay, so like I would like to sometimes at some point, you know, read about it and see what his difference is between theirs, because I've never read their interpretation either, because of the fact that I'm not a horror person. So to me, the Amityville Horror House leaves no, you know, does nothing for me.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. And what I think about it, I don't have, okay, I'll be one of those people that has no preconceived notions about the actual haunting, because I've seen the movie, but I didn't care for it.
Yeah.
So I have no preconceived notions about the haunting there. Unlike if you ask me about the Blisk Axe Murder House, I have tons of opinions and lots of reasons for them.
Right,
you know?
right. And you know, they're differing opinions, like with the Warrens and then with Hans Holzer. But just like a case that we did this season too, at the Franklin Castle, there was a lot of people that have been there and investigated and had their viewpoints on what the haunting was. And we walked into that location like we do all locations, and tried to have a blank slate as much as possible anyway, because except for what's in Hans's files, right? Because that's what our foundation needs to be going in, not any other stories or folklore. It's got to be Hans's case file as the foundation, and we build upon that.
Right.
So we went in there, and come to find out after our hours of research and all of this stuff, came to a different conclusion than a lot of people did about the place, which is completely fine. My interpretation of that is sometimes, you know, certain spirits that tell their story to who they want to tell their story to, you know,
right.
Just like I choose who I want to confide in. That could be said of the spirit world too. I mean, whoever they want to communicate with, they're going to do. Whoever they don't want to communicate with, they're not going to. That's why you have certain people to go into locations that don't get any evidence or any activity, anything going on. Then you have another team go in there, and the floodgates open. You know, so it's just how it is sometimes.
Yep. And at this, we're going to take our next break. You're listening to WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back in just a few minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Shane Pittman from the Travel Channel's Holzer Files. And we've been talking about some of the episodes and other things here of late. So one of the places I wanted to talk to you about was the Oceanborn Mary House. And I thought that episode was really good because of the fact that some of the information that you guys found was contrary to what the location thought their history was. And I know why you went to all these locations. Okay. I'm not going to ask you why you went because we know why. But how did you guys come across this other information?
Well, that is a very good question. So it's kind of involved too. So I'll try to condense it as much as possible. So we go into it, and like I said before, is we start off with a foundation, try to have a blank slate, which is the foundation is Hans's original case files, right? So his original case files and what he wrote about was about the Oceanborn Mary House, or what he thought was the Oceanborn Mary House. I believe it's Henniker, New Hampshire. These places, it gets all jumbled. We've been to a lot of places. So we go there and we talk to different historians and things like that. And we talked to one lady, and forgive me, I forgot her name, that said, well, actually what happened was they transported the house to a different location. This isn't actually the true Oceanborn Mary House. And so we got in touch with Gabe Roth, which is our case researcher. And we said, hey, can you look into this a little bit and fact check and make sure it's legitimate before we make any moves. And that's another thing that real quick I want to say, like the production company and the network Travel Channel, they have been fantastic with allowing us to do our thing. I mean, there's not a lot of shows that'll let you go outside of the box like that. So they were like, hey, if this leads us in another direction, we're going to let y'all do your thing, which I'm really thankful for. So Gabe Roth, he got in touch with the owner of the true Oceanborn Mary House, and that was in Rhode Island. I believe it was 4 hours away. Wow. So we picked up where we were and went there. And yeah, just the Oceanborn Mary House, that has to be one of the most favorite cases of mine, because there were so many twists and turns, and it just shows you how much research is important. Researching the history, fact checking, making sure that you're on the right path. Because yes, we're on a television show. We're it's for entertainment for everybody, but at the same time, we are fortunate because Travel Channel and Painless Productions, they allow us to be ourselves. And I think that's something that sets us apart from a lot of other shows, is they allow us to be true to who we are. And that was one thing going into it that we said, look, we don't want anything to be fraudulent. We want things to be done the right way, because, you go into these scenarios sometimes thinking, okay, well, it is television. What are they going to want us to do? So we had these table talks, and they're like, no, guys, look, no, we don't want anything to be fraudulent. We want things done the right way. We want y'all's expertise to be at the forefront. And they allowed us to do that. And the Oceanborn Mary case was a prime example of that. A lot of twists and turns, did a lot of research, and found out that we had to travel 4 hours out of our way to get to the bottom of what was going on. And just a great case. I really love that case.
Like I said, I like the fact that you were given some history from the people who lived there. They believed that this was true, that this was really the Oceanborn Mary house. They actually believed it. And I'm not saying that every tour guide or docent is going to tell you not the truth, but I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't research yourself to find out, is there something that they're missing? I mean, if you're not like me and don't want to go get the shovel and start digging to find out, the answers to your questions because nobody had an answer, then I'm sorry. But right. I'm that person. I'm the person that will go and dig and find the answer if I have a question that nobody can answer.
Right. And another prime example of this again was Franklin Castle. We spoke with one of the family members, the daughter, that lived there when she was 4 or 5 years old. And her mother told her a lot of stories about the location that her mother heard from other people that owned the house previously. And after our research and after doing the digging that we did on the show, and a lot of people have seen that, and they give Dee Romano, which was the woman that was our client, they gave her a lot of flack for that because she pushed back and said, no, how do you know it's not true, and this and that. And I don't want people to give her a hard time because, some people, they grow up being told certain things, and so much so that it becomes their truth, So This woman was defending her mother that was telling her these things. And of course, she's going to believe her mother over us, and she was just defending her mother's honor. And I get that. But, on the Franklin Castle episode, we told her, look, we did hours of research. We dug through everything we could, and there is absolutely no corroborating evidence to support the stories that were told to your family. And she wasn't too happy about that, but, we still were allowed to tell her, hey, look, this is, this isn't, it can't be backed up with evidence. And
right.
We're doing her a disservice. We're doing the viewers a disservice if we're not honest and we let them know when something can't be corroborated. It's very important to try to be as truthful as possible to people.
That's how I felt about it when I was being a tour guide, and people would ask me, well, who's Sally? And I'm like, oh, I have no clue. There's no grave, there's no death certificate, there's no proof, and I said, and I dug through everything, can't find a Sally. And I said, and I would just tell them, this is what this medium said, and this is what this medium said. And, things like that. Or they'd ask me questions like, when is the dead files going to come here? I said, they're not, because Amy Allen's already been here back in the 90s or back in the 2008 time frame. And they're going, so the Sally house will never be on there? Nope. Not unless they don't follow their, they've only not followed their their normal path a couple times, like when they went to the Blisk Axe murder house and stuff like that. But I would
Right.
have people asking me all these questions that, I couldn't corroborate, or I could. And the things that I could, I would, proudly say, hey, I researched this and this is what I came up with. And, I would answer their question. But if I couldn't, I'd tell them, just like you guys did. Nothing, no collaboration with that at all. There's no proof. I can't find anything on that. If you do, please let me know.
Right. And I'd like to challenge the listeners too, and this is something that I've learned over the past few years. Actually, it took me a while to learn it. I'm 36 years old. It took me a while. But whenever you're told something that is different from what you believe, try not to be so quick to be on the defensive about it, because I was for a lot of years. But learning something new, sometimes it can be uncomfortable, but that means you're learning something, which you should embrace it. I've been told things that I thought were true for a lot of years, and it was uncomfortable to hear something different. But after I did research on my own, I was like, you know what? That's a valid point. Let me dig into that further. It's just an opportunity to learn more. And yes, it may be uncomfortable. Change is always uncomfortable. It's not fun. Change is not fun, because you get out of your comfort zone. You get out of the rut that you're in. And it's not fun to have that change, but change is necessary for growth. And if we're not attempting to grow in our lives, then what's the point in us living? It may be uncomfortable, but try to be open to different viewpoints.
That's a good point. People do need to think about that. There are some viewpoints I won't listen to, but that's okay. we all have one.
I'll listen to them. I'll listen to them, but it doesn't mean I have to embrace them. But I'll listen to it, and I'll take, if something is valid, even though I may think it's absurd. if something in there is valid, then I'll embrace that. If it's not, then I'll discard it. But at least I'll listen, and I may learn a thing or two that way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if it's a viewpoint you're not embracing, you are going to learn something from it, either about yourself or the other person, or just something in general.
Yeah, or you'll learn how to better argue your argument or present your argument to people. Like if you believe you have a solid foundation on a certain viewpoint, and somebody says something absurd to you, then it's just a learning thing to where you know how to speak to people that come at you with those type of ideas, and you're just fine-tuning your strongly held belief.
Yep. There have been times where being a show host, I'm not going to give away any secrets, but sometimes it's hard when you don't agree with the person you're interviewing. I'm not saying I don't agree with you. But what I'm saying is sometimes you have on guests that are so far out there that you're sitting there going, you're rubbing your brow and you're going, how in the heck do I ask this next question when I don't even really understand how they answered the last question, or their viewpoint is so out there. How do I reel this back in?
Right.
And make me not sound like an idiot. Not that they sound like an idiot, because I never say that, but sometimes it's hard. No matter how much research you do on your guests before you have them on, sometimes you can't sound as smart as they are, and you already know that it's way above your listeners' heads. It's hard. Right. But I mean, I've learned a lot from that part. So, we are coming up on our next break here at the top of the hour. So you guys, if you're out there and you have questions, please ask them. I do see one from Sherry, Sherry number 2 in the let's see, is it Sherry number 2 or Sherry number 1? Let's see. Been giving them nicknames in the chat room. I'm going to say Sherry number 1. And so we have a few questions out there for you. And so we're going to come back to those. And And Rosalie, she did have something to say that I wanted to share with you. She goes, I just want to say that it is really one of the best shows out there. Shane, Dave, and Cindy do a phenomenal job and really care. No fake stuff going on, except poor Shane gets the crap stuff. All alone and always grabbed or something, LOL.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that after the break. Kind of got some opinions on why that happens. But yeah, we have some poor Dave moments this season too. So I'm glad I got to share a little bit of it this season.
Well, got to spread it around.
Oh yeah, you got to.
So, because if you don't, then it gets people start expecting certain things all the time. So, but everybody, you're listening to WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We're going to go to the news break, and then we'll be back with Shane. So make sure you come back.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Bank of America. We're all shopping for essentials online these days. With the Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card, you can choose to earn 3% cash back on online shopping essentials. Visit bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2020 Bank of America Corporation.
Live from NPR News, I'm Jack Speer. The U.S. is now seeing more than 150,000 new cases of the coronavirus per day, with hospitalizations rising. Here's NPR's Allison Aubrey reports after millions of Americans ignored the CDC's advice to stay home for the Thanksgiving holiday, experts say more surges are likely.
The U.S. is averaging about 1,500 deaths per day. That's about a death every minute. Hospitalizations have doubled over the last month. Los Angeles County is under a stay-at-home order beginning today, and many places around the country are tightening restrictions. Cases linked to the holiday will begin to show up soon. Most people develop symptoms about 5 or 6 days after exposure. Here's former CDC Director Tom Frieden.
Unfortunately, we have far too much spread in the United States, and because of that, December is likely to be a hard month.
If you did travel, experts say it would be wise to limit your contacts with others over the next 2 weeks in case you were exposed. Allison Aubrey, NPR News.
Tighter COVID-19 restrictions are going into effect today in counties in northern and southern California. In Sacramento, Governor Gavin Newsom providing his first update on the state's response to the pandemic since before Thanksgiving. He says more stay-at-home orders are possible in the hardest-hit counties, with the state's positivity rate now more than 6% over a 14-day period.
If these trends continue, we're going to have to take much more dramatic, arguably drastic action.
Santa Clara County in Silicon Valley has temporarily banned high school, college, and professional sporting events, called for those who travel more than 150 miles outside the county to quarantine. Arizona officials have certified the results of the 2020 general election today, officially confirming President-elect Joe Biden's victory there. From member station KJZZ in Phoenix, Ben Giles has more.
While signing documents to certify the general election results, Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, a Democrat, touted the near 80% turnout in the state. And Republican Governor Doug Ducey's signature certified Democratic Senator-elect Mark Kelly's victory in the special election to finish the term of the late Senator John McCain. Both Hobbs and Ducey praised election staff.
With 2020, the pandemic and COVID-19 brought new, unprecedented challenges for our state. But, as I've said before, we do elections well here in Arizona.
The state Republican Party can now file its planned legal challenge seeking to void the results of the presidential race. For NPR News, I'm Ben Giles in Phoenix.
Several European countries say they're suspending access to ski slopes in an effort to slow the spread of the coronavirus. The World Health Organization's emergencies chief saying today risk of catching COVID while skiing is likely. Minimal activities around skiing have heightened the threat of the virus. On Wall Street today, the Dow is down 271 points. This is NPR. The nation's highest court appears to be expressing skepticism. President Trump and his administration can categorically exclude people living in the country illegally from the population count used to allot seats among the states in the House of Representatives. However, it also appears possible justices could avoid making a final ruling on the matter until they know how broadly the Trump administration acts in its waning days, whether the House would be affected. After several months of upheaval, the zero-emissions truck startup company Nikola is canceling its planned pickup truck and hitting reboot on a relationship with GM. NPR's Camila Dominowski has more.
Nikola had been working on hydrogen-powered big rigs for years when it announced an electric pickup truck called the Badger. Then it revealed a splashy partnership with GM. But reporters and short sellers accused the company of exaggerating its technology, and the founder and executive chairman resigned after allegations of fraud, which he denied. Now GM says it plans to supply hydrogen fuel cell technology for Nikola's tractor trailers, but the Badger pickup is bust. Anyone who put down a deposit will get a refund. And unlike the previous deal, GM will not be taking a stake in the startup. Instead, Nikola will be paying up front to cover GM's costs. Camila Dominowski, NPR News.
Crude oil futures prices moved lower today amid continued uncertainty of whether OPEC members will continue with production cuts. Oil fell 19 cents a barrel to settle at $45.34 a barrel in New York. The Nasdaq was down 7 points today. The Standard & Poor's 500 closed down 16 points. I'm Jack Speer, NPR News.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Shane Pittman from the Travel Channel's Holzer Files. And I still have questions for you in the chat room that I've got to ask you. So we're going to start with those and see where that takes us. So,
Okay.
So one of the questions was, let me find it because I've gone back and forth, I lose things. And apparently the page moves when I'm not looking at it. So, here we go. I'm with you on that. That's good. Sherry asks, this is Sherry number 1. She asks, how about the Conjuring House? Have you ever been there?
Conjuring House, I have not. That is another place that I would love to go to. But no, I have not been there yet.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that was an easy one. And let's see. And Sherry says, sometimes the guides can't taint things. Right, that's true. We can't taint it. We can't change the story. They kind of sometimes force us to stick with the ones that they give us.
Right.
I didn't have that at the time. So let's see, where else? Sherry, same Sherry asks, what was your personal favorite episode that you guys filmed and why?
Let's see. And I'm biased, but they've all been so good. I would have to say one of my favorites, like I said before, was the Oceanborn Mary house. That case, just because the research that we had to do to get to the conclusion that we got to was a lot of work behind the scenes. The viewers got to see the good stuff, right? But there was a lot of traveling to another location, talking to more people to validate, make sure everything was, was correct. So there was a lot of twists and turns on that one. So Oceanborn Mary, and that was one of my favorites. And like I said, the Queen Mary on this season is one of my favorites because, like I said, we were the first team ever, and probably, since we physically got to go there with nobody else on the ship except for the people who weren't there. I mean, that doesn't happen. And unfortunately, it was unfortunate circumstances that caused that to happen, with the whole pandemic and everything. But
silver lining, saying.
Right. We were able to investigate the Queen Mary for the first time with nobody staying in the rooms. It was just us. And that was an experience of a lifetime. And I'll never forget that investigation. You guys are going to see that this season.
Well, I look forward to seeing that. And I know that there was, Halloween, there was a huge investigation there as well with some bunch of people that Kat knows, including Rick McCallum and some other people. And they televised that as well through, I think through Facebook Live or something like that.
Yeah. That was great. There was a lot of great people investigating that night.
I did not watch it. We had just gotten back from the lovely trip to Gulf Shores and the hurricane and
oh yeah, so you were busy.
all that. Well, I have shingles, and right about the time that we left to go down there is it was starting to get, the pain was starting to get bad, and the pain's still bad. But like I said, I can fake it for a couple hours. You can't tell there's anything wrong. I'm also medicated. So let's be honest, medication works. Actually, the medication doesn't work. So just keep that in mind. If you ever get shingles, the medication doesn't work very well.
I hope you start feeling better soon. I know that's rough.
Well, yeah, it's been a month. I'm not an advocate for vaccinations, but I am for the shingle shot. So get your shots, people. Get your shingle shot. So. And we have another comment from Sherry number 2. She says that Shane is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Well, hopefully you don't get to where you have. Do you have any stalkers that you know of?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I do.
But, we won't give them any time then.
let's. Yeah, it's kind of. I love everybody, but sometimes it gets a little creepy.
Believe me, I know. I know. The only reason I said that was because we tease Josh Hurd, who owns an extraordinary location called Malvern Manor in Iowa, and I tease about his stalkers, his entourage, all these people that if I say I have him on, everybody flocks to the show to listen. And that's one place where I can get some sarcasm from as well.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's one of those things where, certain people that have their whole entourage with them every time you have them on. It doesn't matter which show they're on; they all follow them to that show. So just be aware that's probably what you got going on. And,
oh Lord!
Oh yeah. Well, it's in a good way. Nobody knows where you live.
Right. Hopefully.
And we'll keep it that way. Well.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Well, I do, but I'm not going to tell anybody. Well, you told me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not going to tell anybody. Before you started the show and stuff, you were involved with your very own paranormal team. Are you still involved with that team?
No, because, life happened. So, I had a lot of people that were a part of the team that, had jobs and stuff. It was, if anybody runs these types of teams and stuff, it is very hard to keep them together. Depending on how large it is, just because of life and because of things that people have going on in their personal lives. And sometimes people do a great job. It just depends on the people that are involved. And I had a great team, but one of my team members, he was in the military at the time, and he was shipped off to another place. So kind of disbanded there. Then I had another team member that they were going to have a kid soon. So that happened, and, they didn't want to take time away from their family. So over time, it just kind of dwindled a little bit to where I was doing things more solo and started a podcast and was doing that for a little while and was doing a lot of research and investigating on my own. And so that's basically how it was. But how I started the team, how I got into the whole field and everything was, I had experiences when I was really young, starting at 6 years old, up until my teen years. And once I got into my teens, I started reading books like Hans Holzer's books. I started reading a lot of material, trying to understand what was going on with me personally. And then once I got into my 20s or late teens, early 20s, I started researching and seeing different breakthroughs in the community, the paranormal community, with different equipment and things that were being built to test different things. So like thermal cameras, different things like that could test the environment, any temperature changes that you could see on a screen, that could test barometric pressure, different humidity changes, things like that that's in the atmosphere. So if somebody says that they were having cold spots in a certain location, you could take this equipment and test it. Once I knew that there was equipment out there that could test different things that was going on with me personally, I was hooked. I've always been a tech guy, always loved tech. But once I knew that there was tech out there that could potentially prove some of the experiences I was having, that was all she wrote then, and I was hooked. And that's how I got into the field.
Okay. So since you said that, what is your favorite piece of equipment?
And I've said this a lot, and it shocks people. My favorite piece of equipment is a good old-fashioned recorder, digital recorder. And the reason for that is because I have gotten a lot of EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, from just using a recorder. And it's been fascinating to me, and just having it analyzed and going through, because sometimes, there's external components, the reason why it's happening or what you're hearing, and it's just picking it up. But whenever you get to analyze it a little further, run it through programs and stuff, and get responses to various questions and things like that, I mean, it's just fascinating to me. It's one of my favorite pieces of equipment.
Do you find that every time you say EVP that you have to say electronic voice phenomena after that, now that you've been on TV?
Yeah, and because I always run into some, it's crazy, because you think that sometimes the people that watch you and the people that listen to you, they automatically know what it is, but you'll be surprised at how many people say, well, what is that again? And so I end up just saying it, just so electronic voice phenomenon. And then if they ask me to elaborate, I'll elaborate then. But you'll be surprised how many people are still like, what is that?
In my line of business, I'm not shocked. I just thought it was funny that you said that to me on a show where everything is paranormal, and that everybody should know. It's like, okay, apparently.
Yeah, I'm in a habit. I'm in a bad habit, I guess, of doing it.
I just think if there had been video, you probably would have saw me roll my eyes. But the thing is, I started to laugh, and I had to stop, because I know that it's just habit.
Right.
Because another friend of mine does the same thing, and I look at him and I go, was I born yesterday? Really?
But no, and it wasn't for you. I knew you knew what it was, but there could be some listeners out there that may be like, what is that?
And there could be, because who knows who's going to listen to this tomorrow night on iHeartRadio,
right?
or Deezer. Who knows? I don't know who's going to be out there, but if they do, they're going to go, boy, she really is sarcastic, and so is he. But yeah, that was one of the. It's just when you said that, it made me laugh. Okay, we do have another question for you about equipment, and you may not consider it equipment, but a lot of people do. Have you ever used dowsing rods?
Yes.
What did you think?
Me personally, I don't use them that much. Okay. I think that dowsing rods could be really effective. I want to be careful on how I say that. This is my opinion. Okay. So, I believe that dowsing rods could be the most effective when used by an intuitive or a sensitive or potentially a psychic. Because I believe, depending on how the dowsing rods are used, of course, we know that it's used to locate different things, right? So I think that you got to be really careful with them, and it depends on the person. I think it's most effective with who's using them at the time. if that makes any sense at all. I'm probably.
It does.
Vague.
I mean, I know where you're going, because
Right.
it's probably one of those things where you feel like somebody can manipulate them if they, I mean, unconsciously manipulate them. I'm not saying that anybody would intentionally, but yeah, I understand, because I collect dowsing rods because I like them. Funny thing is I don't use them anymore, but I still have them.
Well, they're fascinating. They are fascinating. I just think you need to be really careful because there's a lot of room for error depending on the user. And I'll just say that it's something to where, me personally, if we were going to use them, like especially with the Holzer files, I would say, Cindy, you take them, because I would think that spirit could communicate through her, almost like, you know, how the automatic writing and all of that is, and could use her body, her hands, to answer questions. But I would be really careful on who you choose to operate those when you're doing investigating. Not saying don't trust people, but don't trust people. You know what I mean? It's got to be, you got to be very careful on your approach to those.
Well, at that, we're going to take our next break, and they come so fast. You're listening to WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back with Shane in just a couple minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. My host tonight is Shane Pittman, and we're having an excellent time. So if you just got in here, you're going to have to listen to the replay and see what you missed. So, we're going to ask you this question here from April. She asked, don't you get tired of hearing the same questions? And then to me, and all the same answers all the time?
Same questions. You mean interviews and stuff, or what?
Yeah, because like I know the ghosts too. I mean, think about it. You go to a paranormal location. I mean, these shows are no different than going to a paranormal location and saying, "Are you here? What's your name?" You know.
Right.
It's just how you ask the questions. I try to make it different by not saying, "Hey, how in the heck did you get started in this field? You came across that yourself. I didn't even have to ask that eventually." You know?
Right. And it's I don't get tired of it because, whenever I'm greeting somebody in the physical world, I always say, "Hey, how are you?" There may be different variations of that, but it's always the same. Like, hey, how are you? What's your name? You know, that's how you open dialogue, how you open communication. So going to these locations and saying the same things, it may seem repetitive, especially from a television standpoint, but that's how we go in and establish, okay, who is potentially here or what's going on, you know, why are they here? And so, I mean, I think that's a fundamental thing. You got to go in there and try to establish that communication. Now, if they're talking about just like radio interviews and stuff, no, I love it. It makes it easy for me because if I hear the same questions, it's easier for me to answer. You know, it's just a lot easier to answer on the fly.
Oh yeah, I tell you, I don't know how many shows I've been on at this point. Like we were saying in the beginning, I can talk to you about anything all day long. You may not want to hear all my answers, but I can talk all day long. Even after getting teeth pulled, I can do that. But and it doesn't matter. I'll talk to you, and I love being on the shows, and whether it's talking about something I know nothing about, like Bigfoot, I'll talk to you about it, and I'll listen, and maybe I'll learn something. But I mean, I have been on those shows where they've asked me to come on to talk with them about Bigfoot. And I'm like, really? Okay. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I still do it. And I don't know if it's because I like the sound of my own voice or what, but I do believe, I do agree with you that those same questions that are asked, you'll listen. If you go back and you listen, you never ever answer them the same way.
Right.
It's always different based on how you feel that day and who you think your audience is. Not who you know your audience is, it's who you think your audience is, because we have no clue who's listening.
That's true. Very true.
So that's again going back to EVP, electronic voice phenomena. We still don't know who's listening. Right. So it all works out. So back to other things. We were talking earlier about another reason that I wanted to talk to you was because of a place in Paterson, New Jersey. And all I knew when I was growing up, I didn't know it was Lambert Castle. I just knew it was on Garrett Mountain.
Right.
And we went up there for school. I had family that lived at the turn. There was houses down at the turn where you go up to the mountain. And when you guys are driving, okay, you're driving there, you went by the mill on the Passaic River.
Yep.
Okay. My dad worked at that mill.
Oh, wow.
And it shut down in 1973. We left Paterson, New Jersey in 1973. And I went to school number 5, which is just on the other side of the mill, on the other side of the river. And school number 5. It was kindergarten through 12th grade. I know. And it wasn't a one-room schoolhouse. It was, I'm not that old, but it was a huge school. It's not a huge community center. And then we lived on, you could see Garrett Mountain from Patterson Avenue. And so as a kid, everything seems huge. But I hadn't been back there since, 1980 was the last time I was in Patterson. I went to see my uncle and my cousins. Yes, April, your cousins. I went to see Vicky and Berman. And April's my cousin is in the chat room. So, like I said, so we went there, and I remember seeing the mill there, and that it was already starting to look like it had been kind of reclaimed by nature because of it being right on the river, and the Passaic River floods horribly. And my uncle, like I said, lived at the turn. I mean, we'd go down the road and say Garrett Mountain this way, and his house was right there. But again, when I saw that, the first thing I thought was, I remember coming up the driveway in a bright yellow school bus and seeing a spirit in the yard outside. And I remember the woman that you guys felt was there. I remember seeing her on the stairs and on the balcony, and a man downstairs in the parlor. And
That
I
is
said,
amazing.
well, the thing is, my poor husband, he couldn't watch the show very well without me telling him basically pretty much everything I just said, except in more detail, because of the fact that it was, at the time, I hadn't been told not to say what I see. And so my parents at that time were like, oh yeah, she's got her imaginary friends, you know. So
Right.
me and my imaginary friends went on a field trip today, Mom, you know. But it was really weird when you guys were talking to them, because, you know, back then they didn't say, hey, this place is haunted. They were just, you know, we just had a field trip up there to talk about the history of, you know, we were doing a history of Patterson, New Jersey kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they just took us up there to expose us to the history. Nowadays, they might go into on a field trip, hey, this is haunted. You know, they never told us that the Smithsonian was haunted when we went there. They never told us all this stuff. I just happened to find out by accident. So this was another one of those places that I found out by accident was haunted. How did you, I mean, I know how you guys came across it. How did that file get picked? Because Hans, I think that's one Hans never went to.
Right. So Hans never went here. This is what jumped off the pages to us in his case notes, okay? He tried to go there numerous different times, and something always happened to where, for some odd reason, he was unable to get there. It was amazing how many times we saw in his case notes how he would talk about something coming up or some obstacle that he'd run into to where he wasn't able to actually get there. So whenever we were going through the case notes, and Alexandra Holzer has been fantastic in handing these over to us and helping us sift through everything. And Gabe Roth, he'll go through and really dig into the actual notes and the audio and the visual. And we looked through this particular case and we're like, okay, there's a reason why he didn't go there. And he received multiple letters from this lady that kept having dreams about the place and would go into detail about her experiences. So that's when we said, okay, we got to pick this up and see, okay, why wasn't he ever able to get there? And we dig into the story, and of course, we speak to, and I forgot her name. Oh, Lord help me. It'll come to me. It's at the tip of my tongue. We speak to her, and she sent Hans a letter years ago and was detailing her experiences and her dreams and stuff. And we go there and do a lot of research and dig into it and actually have her do a past life regression. And that case was really involved. There was a lot of things going on. I know whenever we were investigating there, me and Dave would be hearing certain things in the castle, and Cindy would be like, "What?" We're like, "You just didn't hear? You didn't hear this?" It was like a loud voice and footsteps and things like that. And she wouldn't hear it, but we would. And come to find out, as they were choosing who they wanted to communicate with, it was really fascinating to me. And me and Dave were looking at each other like, we cannot believe you're not hearing things that we're hearing in this place. And for whatever reason, maybe it's because she's open to it all the time. That it's just, they were choosing different methods to communicate with who they wanted to communicate with. It was just a really awesome location. But we were pulled to it because Hans wasn't ever able to get there. He'd be on his way There was one instance he was on the main road to get there, and there was some traffic roadblock or something to where it blocked leading up to the castle, and he was unable to go. He had to be turned around. He was that close to getting there, and was unable to go and investigate. So that's why we chose that location, because it was a place we knew he wanted to go and investigate further, but never had a chance to. So we wanted to pick up where he left off, so to speak, and see what we could uncover. And I think it was a really good case.
Yeah, one of the things about that area, horrible ice storms. I remember I was telling Ron about some of the ice storms when I was growing up that were there. Snow, and it's not that high of a mountain. You would have snow on Garrett Mountain, but you wouldn't have snow in Patterson, which was strange because, like I said, they're not high mountains. They're more like, well, from where we live, they're hills. But but yeah, and then flooding, just random flooding shuts everything down.
And that was, I believe, in some of his notes too. That was some of the instances where he couldn't do it. I believe it was some flooding. But on Franklin Castle, like on that plot of land, if you go out on the little balcony there, the view is beautiful. Like I believe, what is it? New York? Yeah, I think it's New York City.
You can see it in the distance. It's only like 40 minutes away.
Yeah, it's a beautiful view. Beautiful view.
Yeah, we only went to New York City when I was growing up twice. And that was with my parents. It wasn't someplace where you would go and, just randomly go. But I was on Romper Room, so I got to go for that.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I know. I was a TV star before TV was really invented, is what my husband will say. Because he asked me if there were dinosaurs, if I saw dinosaurs at my old school.
Oh, Lord.
So, yes, I'm that old. So it's weird. But yeah, it is strange. I remember seeing the spirits there. I don't ever remember hearing any of them talk to me at the time. Probably because I was paying attention to people telling me where to go and what to do when you're 7.
Oh, yeah.
So, but again, the places that you guys have shared aren't places that most of us have seen on TV before.
Yeah, that's another really great thing about being a part of the show is a lot of the viewers out there, like you said, have never seen some of these places. And to be able to introduce the viewers to these places and to the rich history is humbling, and it's an honor to be able to do that. And, and to show a side of Hans Holzer, to show his work, to show what he was doing before it was extremely popular. He was doing this stuff and digging into all of this information way before it was popular. He was America's first ghost hunter, and it's just fascinating that we can bring this to the viewers now. Just like this week's episode, and it's a good segue into that. This week's episode is at the Conference House, and that's in Staten Island, New York. And if you love history, if you're a history buff, then this episode you are going to love. I mean, this was the place where, who was it? A British commander, Lord Howe, Hal. It wasn't Howe. Look at me. I'm calling him some bad names. But he had Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Rutledge there to meet with him. In 1776, and he was trying to convince. It was trying to convince them that a peaceful solution should be found between England and the colonies. And if that meeting didn't happen, then America as we know it could have been completely different, right? It could have been run by the British, and it just really fascinating history. And to be able to show people history all over again, but bring in the paranormal with it is a great honor. And I can't wait for you guys to check out this episode on Thursday night. It's at 10/9 Central on the Travel Channel. And like I said, we visit the conference house in Staten Island, New York, and we dig into the history. But whenever we're doing our research and everything, we uncover something that's not in the history books. And it's a pretty gruesome discovery. So for anybody out there listening, you don't want to miss this one.
Well, I think I just saw another one that I've been to that you guys talk about, and it's in Maryland.
And which one is that? Is that Sykesville?
Oh, I've been to Sykesville many, many times. My computer's just spinning now that I clicked on it to see more about the location. Let me see if it'll stop if I do something else.
Yeah, if you can tell me which place it was, because like I said, we go to all kinds of different places, and it gets jumbled up after a while.
The Howard Lodge.
Oh yeah, Howard Lodge this season. Yes, yep. It's really fascinating history with that, and caught some amazing evidence on that case. I can't say any more, but I'm telling you, it's one of the best things I've ever seen in my whole career.
Yeah, because that one's not coming up until December 17th, everyone. So, but yeah, that is Sykesville, Maryland, and this sounds like someplace that I've been, but until I see a picture of it, I can't tell you. So,
yeah,
because I don't
I'm
know
telling
what
you
it was
guys,
called.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys, some of the best evidence that I think I've ever seen is on that episode. So don't miss that one. That one.
Oh,
is,
no.
One of a
I
kind.
definitely won't be. I actually have another cousin that's not in the chat room who owns a house that used to be a school on Antietam.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And she didn't know she was my cousin. I'd never met her until we went on a trip, and my great aunt was in the hospital, and I met her at the hospital where my great aunt was at. And
isn't that's
it's
crazy.
Weird. It is
that's
weird.
Crazy.
I did not realize how big my family was until they started saying, well, this is your cousin, and this is your cousin, and oh, and this is your cousin. And it's like, okay. and it's both sides of my family's like that. So it's I'm used to it at this point. But so when will you guys find out if there's a season 3?
Hopefully soon. I mean, we haven't heard anything yet. Just having our fingers crossed, with the pandemic and everything being how it's been, everything's up in the air at this point. But we're hopeful for a season 3. I know that Hans, all the cases that he's done, we've got thousands of different documents and audio archival stuff that we could go on for 10 plus seasons.
Oh, so yeah. No doubt.
We're not worried about that. We're just worried about the go ahead to keep going.
Yeah, the funding.
Right.
That we're at our last break. So everybody, you're listening to WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back with Shane in just a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Shane Pittman from the Travel Channel's The Holzer Files. So make sure you set your DVRs to watch that. It's going to be excellent, and we're going to find out if it's another place I've been on December 17th. So it's amazing. The show is amazing, and you guys would love it if you haven't seen it. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you was gone completely out of my brain now. I should really start writing them down better. When you guys were doing all this and you came up with the show concept, this is going to go towards Alex. Is she ever going to investigate with you guys?
I can't tell you.
Okay, well you just answered my question.
And I'll just leave it at that. But I will tell you this, like, she has been such an integral part of our team, such a valued part of our team. But, she has, 6 children, I believe? Yeah, 6 children. So she's busy and, she's really dedicated to and wanting to be there with her family. And she's helped us a lot this season too. But, she's a mother, and so she's got her kids and everything and making sure that they're taken care of.
Right. They're priority one. I understand.
Right. They're priority one. But she is a fantastic person in general. And she has helped us so much have a deeper understanding of what her father was thinking on certain cases at the time, because he would talk to her and let her know these different things. And so having that type of information is invaluable. But you will be seeing more of Alexandra this season. I will tell you that.
A friend of mine is good friends with Alexandra, the Glenn and Susan Williams. And,
Glenn
yes.
and Susan, I love them.
Well, you would be able to hear one of my shows with Glenn on this network, but you can't because he can't control himself.
Oh yeah, but that's Glenn he must have had some whiskey in him. That's probably what it was.
No, it's probably the Glenn Burney in him, because I used to work in Glenn Burney and stuff. He's another one of my Maryland friends, and but yeah, he told me a bunch of things about Alexandra a long time ago, and so did Susan. And it's like, well, she sounds like a really nice person. I don't know her. I've never talked to her or anything like that. I've only heard really good things about her. So when I found out about the show, I was hoping that we'd see her more than at a table talking to you guys.
Right. And the reason why it's that way is because she's introducing us to her father in a sense, and that's kind of how it's worked out that way. And like I said, we spend, sometimes 14, 16 hours a day, and we're on the road as well. And, like I said, she's a mother, and she's got to be there for her kids. So I definitely understand that. But like you said, Glenn and Susan, this is interesting too, is the first time that I linked up with Alexandra and was with Glenn and Susan as well. They were down in Georgia. We were in Lumpkin, Georgia, doing an event. It was the first event that I helped set up for Alexandra, Hunt with Holzer event.
Mm-hmm.
And we investigated the Beddingfield Inn and the jail that was adjacent to that inn. And that was the first time I met Glenn and Susan.
Yeah, they've invited us out whenever we get out to Gettysburg, because they were living in Maryland when we went to Gettysburg.
Right.
And they've invited us out.
They're great people. I love them.
We were hoping to go to the Battlefield Bash, not this year, back in 2020. We knew we weren't going to go then, but sometime in the future. And I knew that would might be a good time to see them, but it might not be a good time to visit with them.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Is there coming? Okay. So we already know all the locations pretty much that you guys are going to be investigating this year. And when you guys talk as a team, do you discuss which locations you're going to go to, or is that just handed to you in a packet and saying, okay, these are the areas that we're going for this season?
Well, me and Dave kind of have an idea going into, but Cindy has no clue. I remember, I think it was the Oceanborn Mary case. They flew her in, 4 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And drove her to the look. This is how meticulous we are about her not knowing what the location is or what the case file is about. So sometimes they'll fly her to a certain place, drive her to a hotel to where she don't really know where she's at until she gets there, and she still doesn't know like what the case is at all.
Mm-hmm.
So we know probably like a week out, me and Dave, maybe not even that sometimes. Sometimes it's 3-4 days, something like that. We'll know where we're going and kind of have like a one sheet, like a little breakdown of what we're getting into and what we're doing, so we can start our research as much as we can as far as with the files.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go from there. Yeah, it's basically handed to us, and then within the week we're at it.
Okay. Because that kind of makes it interesting. And that kind of reminds me when you said Cindy, with the Oceanborn Mary House, she was flown in 4 hours away. Maybe she was flown into the place where you're supposed to go to begin with.
and isn't that interesting? Because like I said, the production company had no clue. You know what I mean? They had no clue of the new place until we started digging at the place we were at. So that's a really amazing point there that it could have been. I can't remember personally which location she was flown into, but I know it was far away from where we were staying in our hotel. But yeah, if that's the case, that's just crazy how the cosmos lined up that way to make that happen,
Yeah. It's just strange that it was 4 hours and you're going, we had to go 4 hours here. And then you go, oh, they flew Cindy in 4 hours away. And more than likely they did.
I'll have to check into that because now I'm curious.
Well, see, that's the whole point. Bring up something that makes you think about it. So, but yeah, I'm interested to see the season since I haven't seen any of it. So we'll be taping that so we can see all that. And like I said, we're excited to see it since, hey, we've watched everything else. Might as well watch. And no, we did not watch The Tiger King. Okay.
Oh, you did?
No, did not watch The Tiger King. We didn't have Netflix until a couple months ago when the kids moved out. They got a subscription and just set it up on my TV.
Oh, gotcha.
But,
well, I watched Tiger King and it was like a train wreck. Like I couldn't
That's
stop.
what I heard.
Yeah, but I mean, I watched that and it was interesting. But I will tell you, like, this season of the Holzer Files, I believe we set a bar, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know, like, I know more seasons that we do is going to be even more fine-tuned. It's going to be great and everything. But the evidence that we caught this season and the places that we investigated and all the things that were happening, and could it be because of the pandemic, like the spirits were wanting interaction, wanting communication? I mean, I don't know. But this season really set a bar. And like I said, some of the most fascinating evidence I think I've ever seen in my entire career. And I'm excited for everybody to see the rest of the episodes, because it's going to blow your mind. I'm telling you, especially Howard Lodge and Oceanborn Mary. I mean, you guys are not going to want to miss it at all.
No, and the marathon's going to get it real easy for you to see it all in a binge watching episode. You know, go out there and binge watch. So it'll be good. And if you get really bored, go find the episode of Me on the Sally House or on Ghost Adventure. There you go. That'll keep you all busy with Shane and Denise. And so, and when you're done with that, you can go find Kat on with Jack and Kat. Darn it. Portals to Hell. Yeah, see, it came right as she forgot too. So see, it's not just me. Portals to Hell. So, ask me which book I wrote a story in. I can't tell you. So that reminds me. Have you written anything? Have you written any books?
I've written 2, and they're not released yet.
Okay.
So,
are they? When are you planning on doing that?
Sometime in 2021. I'm not sure yet. I'm trying to wait it out on the right time. There's some specifics that I got to wait on. But
okay.
I've written 2 and really excited about releasing them. So it's just going to be strategic on how I do it, because trying to decide which one to do first, to release first. I don't want to release them both at once. So yeah, there's that.
That's actually smart, because people only have so much money and so much time.
Right. Yeah, and I want to, it's just, it's a lot involved with it. But yeah, 2021, I'm hoping to release both of them, but it's going to be, kind of scatter a little bit of when I'm going to do it and which one I'm going to do. So it's all in the air with that.
Well, good luck with that. And I saw on your IMDb that you do other things.
Oh, yeah. I've directed some short films. I've done kind of a vast amount of different things, but directed some short films. I do some screenwriting and things like that as well. So I try to stay busy for the most part. I'm also doing this side project right now we call ourselves the Searchers, and basically 2 buddies of mine, Josh Purvis and Ray Causey, we go do some investigating of local haunts, some things where I got started in the paranormal, places that I kind of got started at the grassroots, and then going to other locations as well. We went to Sweet Springs Sanitarium in West Virginia, and we took a production crew out there and recorded, filmed some stuff, and we should be having a little teaser video of that coming out sometime in December. So guys, be looking for that as well, and doing some different experiments and techniques that people I don't think have seen before. That's kind of what I want to bring to the table with the tech side, is kind of testing the limits with different experiments that you can do to try to capture evidence.
Well, then I'll be excited to see that.
Yeah, not just the lighting up stuff, like really in-depth experiments to see what we can capture. So,
well, that's good, because I'll make sure I tell my friend David Glidden, who loves that kind of stuff, about that. And he did a film called Into the Light, talking about spook light phenomena.
Oh, okay.
and you ought to check that out, especially the second one. The first one is good, but the second one is excellent.
I'll definitely check that out.
And make sure that you're ready to laugh and have some Kleenexes when you're laughing. I laughed really hard at it. So where can people find Shane Pittman besides on the Holzer Files?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. Just type in Shane Pittman. On Twitter and Instagram, it's @StarringShane. Let's see. I have a website, officialshanepittman.com. And that's pretty much it.
Well, then you're pretty easy to find.
Oh, yeah. Very easy to find.
Well, I would like to thank you so much for coming on. I had a great time. I was just praying that you didn't cancel on me tonight. And,
no.
Well, no, it's been a rash of that this month, or last month. So
right.
But
well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me on, and appreciate all of your listeners, listening to me ramble. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the support of the Holzer Files and just all the support in general. I love you guys, and I appreciate it very much.
Well, let me know when you're ready to release those books, and we'll get you on again, get those books promoted. But thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, I don't know if I'm going to have a show next week. We're actually going week to week right now, waiting on the new grandbaby to come. And we'll see. Once I know something, I'll let you guys know. But at this point, we're going week to week. And have a great day. And I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. And I'll let you know what's going on. So you're listening to WBHM-DB.com, and come join the Pride every Monday night at 7:00 p.m. Central Time, and listen to all the other programming. We have some great shows. So we'll talk to you later. Thank you.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.